At the time of writing this, I just got back from Avatar, The Way of Water. I went and saw it in 3D IMAX. Spoilers, 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 McSpoilerstan, Spoilerlandia, Spoilereth. Okay? Okay. So, speaking of spoilers, I went out of my way to spoil myself on the plot before going into this. I do not have fond memories of the first movie's plot, and I was not willing to sit through 3 hours of the same if I didn't know in advance if it was going to rehash the first movie. Turns out that a lot of this is a repeat of the first movie, but there is enough of a difference here to make the plot slightly better. Specifically, the main characters from the last movie had 3 biological kids of their own, adopted Sigourney Weaver's immaculately conceived reincarnation, called Kiri, and adopted the human baby of the main villain of the first movie, called Spider. These 5, to be honest, carry the plot, which is not something I can normally say about movie teens and kids. None of it is truly unique or new, and if you're looking for it, you can piece it together. But it creates enough variety of plot lines that it makes the story more engaging and masks over the issues. Let's walk through the plot a little bit. At the end of the last movie, the blue Native American alien sentient cats called the Navi successfully kicked humanity off of their homeworld Pandora. Within minutes of the beginning of this movie, humanity is back and is able to wipe out vast swaths of Pandora's forests simply by landing their spacecrafts. On top of that, the main villain of the first movie, Quark, had his memories backed up off screen, and those memories have been downloaded into a Navi backup body. So he's out for revenge against Jake Sully and Neytiri, and has a side quest where he's trying to reach some sort of understanding with his son, which he completely sucks at because he and everyone on his side can't stop being overtly evil for 5 seconds of runtime. The Sully family end up going into self-imposed exile after Spider is captured because Jake thinks that this will somehow take the heat off of the Navi Forest clan. Somehow, he's right, and the humans are obsessed with him specifically, even though the Navi Forest clan is now thoroughly armed with human weapons at this point and is easily raiding their supply trains. The Sullys go live with the Navi Water clan, and after some begging, they're accepted as long as they can assimilate into the local culture, which is largely the same culture except water and sea critters. To quote Ryan George's pitch meeting, the next third of this movie is a nature documentary with some teenage angst thrown in. The local chief's sons pick on the Sully kids and create exactly the right sequence of events for Jake's second oldest son, Loak, to make friends with a Pandora whale, who is an outcast among the whales for fighting back against space whalers because it gives all the local whales and Navi bad vibes from being upset about the whole affair. Loak is also having the most chaste possible romance with the War Chief's daughter. Meanwhile, Kiri is connecting with nature so hard that if she were to play Dungeons and Dragons, she would be required by law to roleplay a shaman class. Eventually, she overdoes it and has a vision of her past life, which gives her a seizure from gaining meta-awareness that Sigourney Weaver broke the 4th wall by immaculately conceiving her next life. When Jake calls for some backup from his human buddies hanging out with the Forest Clan, it tips off Quark to his location. Quark has been using Spider to study up on Navi language and customs. He gets himself his own Navi pterodactyl steed and teams up with a bunch of space whalers. It's at this point the movie is steering into a final act, final fight by going after the Pandora whales, which are sacred to the Navi water clan and apparently are a higher life form compared to the Navi or humans. The space whalers are there because Pandora not only has a supernatural mineral called unobtainium, but the brain juice of its whales is quite literally the fountain of youth. Quark is using crimes against nature to provoke a fight with Jake, so the space whalers are perfect company. The final fight is both a final fight where the people that have beef with each other get to fight it out, but is also a tug of war to bring back as many of the captured kids as possible. The first half involves the whale that was befriended earlier to cause 60% casualties against the human forces by itself, while the Na'vi water clan and Jake kill another 20% with next to no casualties of their own during the ensuing chaos. Quark doesn't immediately lose because the Na'vi kids and Spider have inverted plot armor that requires them to get two of their own captured to prolong the narrative tension and inconvenience parents in a parent-kid team-up movie. The Na'vi water clan is abruptly gone, despite some humans being alive, and the whale's help is on cooldown. Jake's oldest, Netaim, gets a stray bullet through his heart and an extensive death scene for maximum tear-jerking. Quark and Jake get into a final fight, and then get trapped underwater, along with the entire Sully family. Loak saves his dad with the power of being his dad's sole remaining male offspring, and being found family with a badass space whale. Spider saves Quark with the power of having an oxygen mask on wherever he goes that is protected from damage by plot armor, but flips his dad off to go back to the Na'vi, despite Neytiri putting a knife to him to save Kiri. Kiri saves her mother and sister with the power of being found family with Pandora's version of Gaia. Let me give credit where credit is due. The nature documentary section is great. I was smiling and I was aware of it. I get the impression that the CGI benefited from the decade of constant upgrades and refinement. The water environment and creatures are enjoyable to look at. The 3D did not give me a headache, surprisingly. The world building with the Water Clan was much more organic and therefore did not distract from the visuals, though in all fairness it relies on using the world building from the previous movie to shortcut some of the work. The root of my criticism of this movie is that it needs to be an Avatar movie, and do the Avatar movie thing where the Na'vi Pandora side is objectively good and pure, and the humans are literally called demons. Jake's entire family suffers varying degrees of ostracism for being part human, as Jake's Na'vi body has some human DNA to make it compatible, as established in the first movie. So his kids carry some of that DNA too, and just for that there are realistic prejudices that their family has to work through when joining the Water Clan. For most of the movie, Spider is treated as a true son by the entire Sully family, despite the identity of his bio-father. It makes the story believable, until Neytiri goes psycho and threatens Spider's life to get Quark to free Kiri, only for Spider to save Quark, then go back to his Na'vi family as if nothing happened. The swerves are not fun. And just like with the last movie, I'm not here for the bad humans finger wagging as described by Nostalgia Critic. Here's the thing. Everyone who believes in respecting the environment is already going to agree that we should respect the environment and is already doing what they can do realistically with their individual political and economic power to do that, short of quitting all their responsibilities and pursuits on the spot and becoming a monk environmentalist activist hybrid. The message just ends up being preaching to the choir. I already know that we should care about the environment, and so do you, person who is listening to this video. If anything, I'm kind of reminded of the people who have publicly glued themselves to places and chucked oil on fine art. Does anyone really believe that this reaches anyone who wasn't already on board by now? The sort of people who actually save the environment are the sort of people who operate projects like the ocean cleanup. That would be a cool thing for James Cameron to invest in, right? And even if he doesn't, he could have made this movie a lot more enjoyable by having the courage to make this entire movie a slice of life and drop the Return of Humanity plot. Manufacture a reason for the Sullys to leave and make contact with the Water Clan. Keep the reconciliation with their human roots subplot there, but drop the war. In fact, I get the impression Cameron himself might feel this way because of the headline saying that he cut 10 minutes of gunplay from the final battle and that he was sick of filming this sort of thing. Dude, you shouldn't have to. People were going to see this for the SFX anyway. You know who the real heroes of this movie are? the real film creators, the computer hardware that rendered this movie. All of the actual humans who produced the movie worked hard, obviously. But let's be real. A movie with this much CGI focused on this much visual realism geared specifically for a 3D experience requires hours upon hours of footage and artificial visual elements stacked upon each other and tweaked over and over again. That takes not only a lot of computational horsepower, but specialized media hardware. In these movies, those brave computers set a new benchmark for water SFX. I'm not even joking when I say that AAA blockbuster video games have struggled with that sort of visual element in the entire time that we have had the personal computer. I sat through 3 hours of this movie's SFX with 3D glasses, didn't get a headache, and thoroughly enjoyed the middle third of this movie. This has been the triumph of the rendering computers.